Hey everyone, welcome back to Mom Power Talk. I'm Sarah, and today we're diving into a topic that so many moms face but don't always talk about: mom burnout.
And I'm Emma. Burnout is something most moms experience at one point or another. Today, we're going to share personal stories, tips for recognizing the signs of burnout, and ways to manage and prevent it.
We've both been there, right? The overwhelming feeling of trying to do it all and feeling like you're constantly running on empty. But the good news is, it doesn't have to be that way.
Absolutely. We hope today's episode gives you some comfort and practical advice if you're feeling close to burnout, or even if you're already there.
So let's start by defining what mommy burnout is. It's that emotional, mental, and physical exhaustion that comes from the constant demands of motherhood.
Yes, and it's not just about being tired, it's feeling completely overwhelmed and drained to the point where you can't function at your best. It's when you're not just tired from lack of sleep, but also from carrying the weight of everything: work, kids, the household, relationships on your shoulders.
One of the hardest parts about burnout is that it can sneak up on you. Emma, how did you first realize you were burnt out?
I didn't recognize it at first. I thought it was just normal mom exhaustion. But then I started noticing things like constant irritability, a short temper, and just feeling disconnected from my family. Even when I had time to rest, I still felt exhausted.
That resonates with me. For me, it was when I started losing interest in things I used to enjoy. I felt like I was just going through the motions and couldn't find joy in anything, even spending time with my kids.
The first time I really hit burnout was after I had my second child. I was trying to be super mom, working full-time, taking care of a newborn and a toddler, keeping the house running, and trying to be the perfect wife and friend. It was impossible, but I didn't want to admit it.
I remember you mentioning that. What was the turning point?
It was one evening when my husband asked what I wanted for dinner, and I just broke down in tears. I realized I hadn't taken a moment for myself in months. I was so focused on taking care of everyone else that I completely neglected my own needs.
I had a similar experience. My burnout hit after I went back to work following maternity leave. I thought I could just jump back into my old routine: work, family, social life, without adjusting for the new demands of motherhood. That came crashing down when I caught myself snapping at my kids for no reason.
It's scary how burnout affects our relationships. How did you start to pull yourself out of that space?
First step was acknowledging it. I had to admit that I was overwhelmed and that it was okay to not be able to do everything. I also learned to ask for help, which was a huge turning point for me.
Asking for help is so important, but it's something many moms struggle with. We feel like we have to handle everything on our own.
Exactly. There's this pressure to be super mom and do it all without showing weakness, but asking for help isn't a sign of failure. It's actually a sign of strength, whether it's your partner, family, or friends. Don't be afraid to lean on them when you need to.
One mom I know was dealing with burnout because she felt like she had to control everything, from managing the household to making sure her kids' homework was done perfectly. Her turning point came when she started delegating. She let her partner take over dinner duties a few nights a week, and she hired a cleaner to help with the house.
That's such a great example. We don't have to be in charge of every single task. It's okay to delegate and let others share the load. Setting boundaries is another key to preventing burnout. Emma, how have you set boundaries in your own life?
For me, it's about separating work time from family time. I used to check emails during dinner or take work calls while I was with the kids. Now I have set hours for work, and once those hours are done, I'm fully present with my family. I remember a friend of mine who was always volunteering for everything: school events, fundraisers, work committees. She was spread so thin, and it eventually led to burnout. She told me that learning to say no was one of the best decisions she ever made.
It's hard to say no, but it's so necessary. We can't be everything to everyone all the time. We can't talk about burnout without talking about self-care, but I know that for many moms, self-care can feel impossible. How do you make time for yourself, Emma?
I've learned to find small pockets of time throughout the day. It's not about long spa days. Sometimes it's just taking 10 minutes to sit quietly with a cup of tea or taking a walk around the block to clear my head.
And let's debunk the myth that self-care is selfish. Taking care of yourself is essential to taking care of your family. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly. When we take care of ourselves, we show up as better moms, partners, and even employees. It's a win-win. I think sleep is one of the most underrated aspects of self-care. How many of us are running on fumes because we're sacrificing sleep to get more done?
Guilty. I used to stay up late to finish work or chores, but I've realized that I'm so much more productive and patient when I'm well rested. Prioritizing sleep has been a game changer for me. If you're struggling with sleep, one tip is to create a bedtime routine that helps you wind down. It could be as simple as turning off screens an hour before bed, reading a book, or doing some light stretching.
And don't be afraid to ask for help with night feedings or wake-ups if you have a partner. Sharing the nighttime duties can make a big difference. I remember a mom in my mom group who was completely burnt out. She made a commitment to carve out 30 minutes every Saturday morning just for herself, whether it was a walk, a coffee date with herself, or even just sitting in silence. She said it was her saving grace.
That's so powerful. Even just 30 minutes of me time can make such a difference in resetting your energy and mental state. One way to prevent burnout is by identifying your stress triggers. For me, it's when my schedule gets too packed and I feel like I don't have time to breathe. What about you, Miss?
For me, it's when I feel like I have too many competing demands. When I'm trying to meet deadlines at work while also managing my kids' schedules, it can feel overwhelming. A friend of mine who works in a high-stress job told me that the only way she stays sane is by finding balance within the chaos. She sets small, manageable goals for each day and focuses on one task at a time instead of trying to tackle everything else.
That's such a good strategy. It's easy to get overwhelmed when you look at the big picture, but breaking it down into smaller pieces makes it feel more manageable.
Sometimes burnout happens because we feel isolated. Connecting with other moms who understand what you're going through can be a great way to relieve stress.
Yes, I found that even a simple coffee date with a friend who gets it can be so rejuvenating. Just talking to someone who knows what you're going through makes such a difference.
I know a mom who dealt with burnout by building a strong support system. She joined a local mom group and started leaning on other moms for advice, venting, and just a listening ear. She said it made her feel less alone.
That's such a good point. We're not meant to do this motherhood thing alone. Having a community can make all the difference. In today's digital world, sometimes we need to unplug to recharge. Social media can create unrealistic expectations that contribute to burnout. Do you ever unplug, Emma?
I do. I'll take a break from social media or turn off my phone for a few hours, just to be present with my family or enjoy some quiet time. It's amazing how much calmer I feel after unplugging. I once heard of a mom who did a digital detox for a weekend. She left her phone in a drawer, didn't check emails, and just spent time with her family. She said it was one of the most refreshing experiences she'd had in years.
That sounds incredible. Sometimes this connecting from the digital world can help us reconnect with ourselves and the people around us.
Yes, and she told me that what surprised her most was how much time she got back for herself and her family. Without the constant notifications and distractions, she was more present in the moment. She came back from the weekend feeling recharged and more connected to her kids.
I love that. It shows how much our devices can drain us mentally, even when we don't realize it. Sometimes a digital detox is exactly what we need to clear our minds and get back in touch with what really matters. That one thing that's really helped me manage burnout is creating a calming space in my home. It doesn't have to be a big area, just a small corner where you can retreat to when you need a break.
That's a great idea. I have a little reading nook that I go to when I need to unwind. Even if it's just for 10 minutes with a cup of tea, it makes a big difference.
Exactly. It's like having a mini retreat right in your own home. Moms need a place where they can recharge, even if it's just for a few minutes.
Another tool that's helped me prevent burnout is practicing mindfulness. Just taking a few minutes each day to focus on my breath or do a short meditation has made a huge difference in how I handle stress.
I've started doing that too. Mindfulness helps you stay present, which can keep those overwhelming thoughts at bay. Sometimes we're so caught up in thinking about everything we have to do that we forget to just breathe and be in the moment.
Exactly. It's a simple but powerful way to reset your mind and prevent burnout before it happens. I know a mom who was constantly burned out because she was chasing perfection, trying to be the perfect mom, the perfect wife, and the perfect employee. She told me that the best thing she ever did was let go of perfection and embrace good enough.
I love that. We put so much pressure on ourselves to do everything flawlessly, but that's impossible. Letting go of the idea that everything has to be perfect can be so freeing.
Exactly. Once she gave herself permission to make mistakes and not be perfect, her stress levels dropped significantly.
One practical tip that's helped me is scheduling me time like I would a work meeting. I block it off on my calendar and I treat it as a non negotiable appointment with myself.
That's such a good idea. It's easy to put self-care on the back burner when we're busy, but if we treat it like a priority, we're more likely to stick to it.
Exactly. Whether it's 30 minutes for a walk, a yoga class, or even just time to read, putting it on my calendar ensures that I actually take the time for myself.
One thing we often overlook when we're feeling burned out is our diet. I know when I'm stressed, I tend to grab quick, unhealthy snacks, which only makes me feel more sluggish.
I can relate. What we eat plays a huge role in how we feel. When I make the effort to eat balanced meals with plenty of fruits, veggies, and protein, I have more energy and feel less overwhelmed.
Exactly. Proper nutrition can give you the stamina you need to get through the day and help prevent that burnout spiral.
One thing that's helped me stay grounded and avoid burnout is finding joy in the little moments. Whether it's laughing with my kids over a silly joke or enjoying the quiet during their nap time, those small moments of happiness can recharge your soul.
That's so true. We often think we need big, grand gestures to feel better, but sometimes it's the simple things that make the biggest difference.
Exactly. Appreciating the small wins and the happy moments in everyday life can help you keep burnout at bay. Before we wrap up, let's share our final tips for preventing mom burnout.
My tip is to set realistic expectations for yourself. You don't have to do everything perfectly. It's okay to let some things slide.
And mine is to make self care a priority, no matter how small it seems. Even if it's just 10 minutes a day, that time for yourself is non negotiable.
We hope today's episode helps you recognize the signs of burnout and gives you some tools to manage and prevent it. Remember, you're not alone in this, and it's okay to ask for help.
Thanks for tuning in to Mom Power Talk. Be sure to subscribe for more episodes on motherhood, self care, and everything in between. And if you're feeling burnt out, know that it's okay to take a step back and breathe.
You're doing an amazing job, Mama. Until next time, take care of yourself